Now, you're all given a very high-tech stopwatch. So you're actually going to get the chance to use it, I hope. We're actually going to time two databases as they run the same query. So in doing this demo, let me show you what you're about to see. What you're going to see on the left-hand side is a query being run off the VectorWise database. On the right-hand side is another industry standard database. The structure that we've set up, you see on the table in front of you, we've got 3 laptops. Each laptop is running a database server. Each of these 2 laptops is running the database server. The third laptop, and completely independent, is running a Cognos instance on which I'm going to show you these dashboards running. The machines themselves are identical. The tuning and everything has been identical for both environments. We are running off a data set that contains 150 million rows. The first thing that you'll see is how we run a query that simply totals up the quantity, the revenue figures over those 150 million rows for both databases. We're going to kick the query off at the same time, and we'll see what response we get. In order to do this, we'll actually change to another PC. And we're actually going to start this from scratch here. All right, buttons ready. Everybody ready to click on this? I'm going to start up this report. There will be a bit of a lag as Cognos loads the report, but you'll see the result fairly quickly. So here we go. Go. So there we go. Press your stop button, your lap button. Now, while that's going on, let's just consider what's happened. There's been a straightforward query down 150 million rows of data. No indexing, no tweaking, no nothing. And we've got that information out already. We've got an answer, we've got the chart displayed. There's our row count of 150 million. At the same time, our other database is doing the identical query and is running through this data on an identical laptop. Right? So all things being equal, it would have been great if we could have the two responses being roughly the same time. Well, obviously, VectorWise has done something that's going to make them an order of magnitude, a number of orders of magnitude faster than the other database. Perfect opportunity to have a drink of water, a cup of coffee, and stop. Anybody got a time for that? So that's about the order of magnitude we expect. Seconds to minutes. Right? It's an enormous difference. It's going to be to show you a bit of slicing and dicing here, where we come up with a chart. Once again, on the left-hand side is the VectorWise database. On the right-hand side, another industry standard database. There we go. Here's VectorWise. I'm going to drill down. I'm interested in food. I'll double-click on food, and I'll drill down to the next level of detail there. Okay, we see that produce is our biggest producer there, and that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to double-click on produce. I'm drilling down into the produce bar of the chart, and I'm getting down to the next level of detail. Same data set. Okay, vegetables. Vegetables in the USA, let's double click on that and drill down there. So as you can see, I'm simply posing a number of questions to the data, drilling down, fresh vegetables, that's great, let's double click on that. And I can keep going with my analysis on the left-hand side, while as on the right-hand side, we don't even have the first instance up yet. Let's start going back up. From fresh vegetables, we'll drill up. From the USA, we'll drill up. And from vegetables, we'll keep going. So I've actually traversed my entire data set, 150 million records. And I've been able to drill all the way down and all the way back up. I'm still waiting for the first instance of the other database to come back to me. Well, we can keep going. How does Canada look? I think you get the idea. There's the other database. I've just done an enormous amount of analysis while still waiting for the other database to even come back with its first answer. What this tells you is that it's no longer necessary to aggregate your data, to reduce the data set that you're going to be analyzing, or to move it across to a proprietary data structure in order to manipulate that data. This is simply running off a relational database as is that one. But with 150 million records, which would start to cause problems in a cube, you're able to do that type of analysis on the fly, completely on the fly. No need to build special structures, no need to build special reports. You can let your end users loose on that data without having to spend huge amounts of time tuning the underlying database. So let's come back to the other PC. What this all leads to is a performance-driven architecture. What we're talking about now is how we affect the end user directly. And we need to give them a performance-driven architecture that makes sure that two things happen. Firstly, we improve the end user experience for that end user. And secondly, we make sure that the project has a viable lifespan in terms of the money we're going to need to spend on actually setting up the project and maintaining it as we go forward. A performance-driven architecture. In the Cognos environment, there are two scenarios that we tend to come across typically. The first of them is where you have a large amount of operational source data, as you see on the left-hand side, and we're reporting directly into the Cognos environment that you see on the right. From that Cognos environment, we're generating cubes, we're generating reports, and we're putting that information into the hands of the end users. How can we improve this picture? Well, our recommendation is that when you start to have problems in the time that it takes you to deliver your cubes, to build your cubes, to actually put them out there, or the time that it takes you to run a report that is directly off the relational database, and for your end user to actually get that result, well, once you start having problems there, it's time to change your architecture slightly. Our recommendation is that you consolidate your data into a vector-wise database. Your vector-wise data store then becomes the collector for all of this data, but the important thing is, by virtue of the speed of the vector-wise database, which you've just seen demonstrated, you're able to push that data back to the end users very much faster than you ever did before. You can still build cubes off the vector-wise database. You can still run reports off the operational database, but you're far better off using the vector-wise database and its now operational data store to actually run these reports. The second scenario, there are some organizations who have already gone a long way down the business intelligence track. They've built data warehouses, large, cumbersome, possibly expensive data warehouses. These still have a place. They still deliver large amounts of reports to the organization. We're not proposing that you scrap your current database, your current data warehouse. Our recommendation, use Vectorwise to feed those particular Cognos reports. Once again, you'll notice that the number of cubes has been reduced. Why? Because you simply don't need to build all of the cubes that you did previously. Right? As we'll always say, there are going to be cubes that you need to maintain because they still have a place. They're outstanding technology. But you don't need all of the cubes necessarily that you currently are building. The Vectorwise database takes the place of cube structures that were designed to optimize the speed in the hands of the end users. You're still able to generate your cubes and your reports off the Vectorwise database or off the data warehouse. Really makes no difference. But where your users demand speed and they demand a rapid response, that's the environment you need to go to, the Vectorwise data store. Now, I'm not going to try and tell you all about the intricacies of the Vectorwise database and how it's actually structured. No, in actual fact, I'm going to bow out now and I'm going to ask Jason to come along and tell you a little bit more about that.